So what is the topic for today?
Coaches. What was
Coaches
it?
learn from coaches.
Coaches learn from coaches.
What you've learned from coach. So what the coaches have learned from coaches.
That's it.
Okay.
So what have we been learning from coaches? Man, let me tell you something. There's some fun stuff in here. Anybody want an espresso?
Yes, please.
How's my boy Christian doing there? Dre?
What was that?
How's Christian doing? Good?
Oh, he's great. He's pumped about the Eagles.
I'm telling you. Telling you. Let's go. So, all right. So it looks like there's just a couple of us here. We got Yarborough in there. We got Brian in there. He's got his mic off, but he doesn't have his screen on. We got
Good
Gail
morning.
who's in there in spirit. Somebody's got an Otter AI going. Who's that? Who
Karina.
What? We do?
Karina.
Oh, Karina does. There you go. And we got Mitchie. So, all right. We're about 4 minutes in. We're going to give it 1 more minute and we're going to light it up.
Mitch won't be in today. That's me signed in as him.
Okay. And then Pete.
Pete's on his way. Yeah.
Pete's being Pete and repeat. Him and I are going to start a show, the Pete and Craig show. Whenever we travel, it's like
I think you should.
Batman and Robin. I'll be Robin. I'll let him play Batman.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
All right. So, do anybody do not know how to turn off the Otter AL? We don't have to. Don't have to worry about that. That's Karina who's taking the notes, which is great. So we're good. We got chat. We got about 33 people in here. Mitch is not going to be in. We got Pete that's jumping in. So what do you say, Masa? You just want to start going? We're about 5 minutes in.
Yeah,
Hey,
we should.
do me a favor in the chat, everybody. Let's go. We all see the names, but we also don't know where you're from. So right now in the chat, put where you're at. I'm in Philly, if you couldn't guess. Masa is in the world famous. You're not in Mexico. You're in your office in San Diego.
I'm in my office in La Jolla right now.
Here we go. We got Delmar. We got Boise, Idaho. Oh, great potatoes. There you go. We got the Outer Banks. We got duck donuts and stuff. We have masa. We have Atlanta, Georgia coming in hot. I remember, what's it called? It was the diner, the Buckhead Diner. Is it still there? Castle Rock, Colorado. I'm going to be in Denver for a taping of a show, the 4th to the 6th. We got Delmar. Yeah, baby. Let's go. We got San Diego. And see, I can't say these Spanish names. Say that.
Encinitas.
Encinitas. Jersey in the house. Let's go, Deborah. Let's go. Jersey's in the house. We got La Cruz, New Mexico. Come see me. Let's go. All right. So, all right, Masa, seems like you and me are starting. Coaches learning from coaches. What's the first hint that you have about being coached? If you're going to be coached, what's the number one hint you got to tell people or think like? Oh, there we go. Cameron, you've changed. Dave Lawson. Change your name, Dave.
I don't know why it does that. And every time I come on, doesn't do it any other time.
All right, you can fix it. So, Masa, go ahead. So,
all right. Well,
being coached, what did you find?
I will say this. I started coaching programs. I want to say really it was closer. It was like in 2011, but I started going to like some seminars here and there and started being exposed to the coaching world a little bit earlier than that. And again, I started real estate in late 2006, 2007. And I think that the biggest challenge that I had was the resistance to it and being coachable, because I, at the beginning thought that I could do it all on my own. And, come to find out, I was recreating the wheel, all the testing and the failing and the recreation and blah, blah, blah. And so I finally got fed up and I subscribed to and joined a coaching program, right? And it was kind of a hard decision to be able to put forth that credit card, not having the money to do so. But realistically, looking back, it was one of the best decisions that I've done. And so, I guess I would say my experience coaching is a journey. When I started, the things that I was focusing on was more mindset. Then it was more about lead gen and production. And then it was more about systems and operations and how to structure everything. But the point that I got from it is that, and just like my mentors, there's so much that we can learn from people who have been there before. And, collectively within a group, when all these, all the minds get together and there's all these experiences going on and testing from all over the country, and we can all come together and share that, it really helps us get to where we're going a lot faster, and we don't have to recreate the wheel. Like, for instance, within our, networking group, we're able to share systems, tools, whatever the case, right? Whatever we're doing that works. And instead of us trying and wasting money and failing and having to go through that process, which is sometimes necessary, but we can plug into what, others are doing and just get to where we're going faster. So for me, I'm not going to go over all, but I jotted down like a few things that I just mentioned. But the part that I'm, reason why I'm still in coaching is because there's always so much to learn. And more recently, the coach that I hired a couple of years ago, all we focused on was systems and getting all of my business structured in a sense that was, that was keeping the team, on the right track, giving them tools, and then also the accountability and the systems to track accountability for me to be able to help them, in myself along the way. And so that structure and systems part was the piece that, was really hard for me to create, because I went so long without focusing on that and really more just focusing on production. So then finally putting all those steps in place and being able to be connected with, person A, B, or C who had all the systems already dialed in, seeing what they're doing and learning from all of their lessons. Again, it's not an overnight thing. It's still a journey. It took a while to put all of them in place. But again, after doing so, seeing the results, and also just a simplification of my life in business and even in personal, to be able to move forward. So I would say, like, if you guys want specifics on that, I'm happy to dive into it. But I would say really what I've learned from coaching is like 5 things: mindset, lead gen, operations and structure and systems, and accountability.
Okay. That reminded me, as you were going through there, one of the a great quote: "When the student's ready to learn, the teacher shall appear." And that means that you're living in curiosity, not just in judgment. And in going through that, you evolve. The coach that you start with may not be the coach that you end with.
No.
Because your level changes. I've worn coaches out, and I ended up, as I'm working with them, they're like, I'm learning more from you than them. And they step out and then find me a new coach. So it's also, let's go back to the thing that you were constantly challenging yourself. When Tiger Woods or any of these golfers play around the golf, when they're done golf, they're not done golf. They go to the driving range, like Pete does, and hits 1,000 balls with their coach. They just played 18 holes. They just played 4 under. They're in the lead. They hit 1,000 balls. They're constantly learning. They're still being tweaked and coached. All right. So never think that you're above the coach, because coaches are kind of like a psychiatrist. All they do is help you free up what you really know that's confusing you with the noise. And it helps you zero it in. And actually, I call them, it's almost like having a handless Tesla driving. I don't have one, but I'm just appearing it like it. They're here to help you be able to drive handless while you're able to do other things. So, all right, Pete, I took over from the beginning because you weren't on. You're willing to jump in, or I'll keep running. You decide. I'm all in.
Listen, go. I like the Lurch show. I like the Philly spin on it. It feels like some cheese whiz, a little cheesesteak going. You got it all fired up. I just heard Gary's stuff. That was great. Did you go to Dave yet? Dave likes.
Yeah, Gary started. Let's go to Dave.
Dave's, look, he's fresh off the slopes. I think they have snow out there right now. It's cold in Southern Cal, so it's got to be cold in Utah.
That's
Dave,
right.
what's going on? Give us some insight. So I know you are a coach. You do a lot of coaching. And who has been some of your coaches, and what have they taught you?
Well, I've spent maybe $300,000 on coaches. Mm-hmm. I truly believe in them. We hired 4 new agents, and I told them this: you can learn real estate the way everybody else does, take 20 or 30 years to figure it out, or you come and you join on my team and you get the coaching that I do, and in 1 to 2 years, you won't even recognize yourself. And in fact, I tell people, pull your phone out. What day is today? It's the 21st of November. So I want you on the 21st of November in 2025, after you've been on my team for a year, I want you to call me and tell me, do you even recognize yourself because of the coaching? And it's unbelievable. And we just had a challenge in our office, and we went to lunch with the people that won the challenge. There was like 6 of them on the team, or 7. And I asked them, and they all said, "Man, when you said that, I didn't believe it." And they're like, "I can't believe it." I've had coaches for all kinds of things, and we all know, professional sports. Pete, you played hockey, right? And you learned it all on your own. Your coaches didn't teach you anything, right? No, that's a ridiculous statement, right? How could you have been a professional hockey player if you didn't have a coach? And I've had coaches at the gym. I've had financial coaches. I played baseball in college and beyond. And, it was all those things, right? And then we get into, when I was racing stock cars, I hired a driving coach. Why? Because do you think I can figure it out, or do I want to learn, those little tiny things that make you better, right? So, and the other thing I did is, because of my different experiences. So in 2000, I got my real estate license to sell full time in Utah, and I'd been doing other things. But to make a long story short, I got my license in January of 2000. And when I hired I hired a coach at Mike Ferry's office in December of 1999. He goes, "You don't have a real estate license and you want to hire a coach already?" I said, "Yeah, because I want to hit the ground running." I was like $400,000 in debt, and I was in a financially bad place. And I was like, yep. And I didn't have the money. Too many people, like Gary said, right? You don't want to write that check. Though it was $1,000 a month in the year 2000. That's a lot of money. So, but I've learned so many things. I've learned that your success in real estate is directly proportioned to the work you do. I've learned about morning routine, man. My morning routine was so good for decades that made me win, and then I started thinking of morning routine. And then in my coaching program, I said, "You want me? I'll give you one reason right now, everybody that's on here. If you do this, I absolutely, positively believe you can. Who wants to double your business guaranteed?" Right? Raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand, right?
Yep.
So it's very simple. I tell people, go back to high school. What does that mean? So Pete, that was a few years ago. Right? Where's Cameron when we need him? That was like last year, right?
That's when we need Cam, baby face Cam.
Yeah. But okay, at 8 o'clock, where were you in high school? You
I
were in
was
first period
first
studying
period.
history.
That's it.
At 9 o'clock, second period, you're doing psychology. Third period, you were doing math. At 10, at 11 o'clock, you had another class. At noon, you went to lunch. At 1 o'clock, you did, you know, whatever, right? And at 2 o'clock, and then you went to hockey practice, right? And then when your hockey practice was over, you studied. And if you run your business like you're in high school, I absolutely positively guarantee that you will easily double your business. Because can you imagine if you did that? And the thing that I love about this concept is you don't have to think about it. Pete, at 9 o'clock, when the bell rang at 8:55, where were you going at 9 o'clock? You knew that you were going from this to that. You didn't think about it, you just did it. And if you want to call expireds at 8 o'clock, and you want to get call for sale by owners at 9 o'clock, and you want to do, this and this and this, very structured in your business. The problem is there's 100 things to do in real estate. Yes or yes, right? There's only 4 or 5 things that make you money. It's prospecting, lead follow-up, appointments with buyers and sellers, and negotiating contracts. And so that's my PLAN plan, or plans if you do a little social media. Those are the only things that make you money. I always say nothing happens until a sale is made. And my very first coach, John Zanino, he was amazing. And he explained something to me that blew my mind. And I got to tell you this story. And then I'm going to move on. So I had a goal to sell 44 homes in the very first year, and I didn't make 44. I sold 55. And he, at the end of the year, and man, did I have to record how many contacts, how many appointments. I tracked everything. And then at the end of the year, man, I was feeling like I was hot shit, right? Because I sold 55 homes. I took 118 listings in my first year because I did that. And at the end, you know what he said? Dave, you're a little bit better than average. And I'm like, what? That's when we had phones with cords. I wanted to crawl through the cord and wring his neck. But this is what he told me. So think about the math. He goes, okay, Dave, so you did 55 transactions. Okay, let's do the math. He goes, you know what the average agent in the United States does of lead generation? He goes, 30 minutes. You know how much time you did lead generation? You did 7 hours. In other words, you did 14 times the amount of income producing activities than an average agent. And he goes, you know how many people do, or the average agent back then, they did 3.5 transactions. So you go 3.5 transactions times 14. If you're good with math, what is that? It's 49. And he goes, so if you would have been an average agent and you would have done 7 hours of income producing activities, you would have done 49 transactions, and you did 55. Congratulations, you're a little bit better than average. So what is the moral to that story? It's about the activities that we do. If you have a direction and you're going here, but your actions are over here, you're not going to get there, right? As a pilot, if I take off from LAX and I'm 1% off and I want to go to New York, you know where I'm going to end up? I'm going to end up in Pete's backyard in Boston by being 1% off. So that's the thing I wanted to teach or share with everybody, because we get so busy doing other things that don't matter. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Can I add something on just the tail end of that? A recommendation. Do you guys know the book Go for No?
Yeah.
So just when you were talking about that story, it reminded me of that book about shifting the mindset about not hitting your goals for you. Like if you have, the book, if you haven't read it, is about like, maybe we're looking to have 5 conversations in a day, but we know that like it's going to take 50 no's to get to 1 yes, or whatever the case is. So set your goals the opposite of how many no's that you want to get. And realistically, don't stop at how many, yeses that you get, because if you're going for all the no's, you're going to way outpace yourself. Yeah. And so anyways, it's a really good quick read. And I think that at the end of the year, it's a good mindset shift that, some people might find value in. So sorry, but thank you.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, Gary, and just a reminder, everybody, if you go to my coaching channel, it's David Lawson Coaching. Listen to the short I did on yes, no, or maybe. So one of the things that I learned a long time ago is getting to somebody to make a decision. So if I ask you, Gary, do you want to list your house? And you can say yes, no, or maybe, right? So we all know yes is the favorite answer. What's the second favorite answer?
Maybe.
Pete, you're on mute. What?
Yeah, I was trying to mouth it. Maybe.
That's what everybody says, but
It's probably no, right? And
I'm
then
going to
you just want
disagree.
Yeah.
I tell people that I love yeses, I like nos, and I hate maybes. I say maybe deals don't pay positive bills or definite bills. What does that mean? So Gary, so say you maybe want to sell, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask clarifying questions to Gary until I can put him in a yes category or a no category. So I don't want to let him off the phone thinking, he may be selling sometime. So all I have to do is ask 3 or 4 more clarifying questions. And then, or do you want to buy? And then I find out, well, he doesn't have any money. And the last thing he says is, well, if I win the lottery, then I'm going to buy a house in Park City, right? So it's just a different mindset. But anyway, when you said that, Gary, it reminded me of that. And that's a concept that I've taught for 20 some years. So
I
anyway.
love that concept. I mean, listen, we've all learned great points from coaches over the years. All of us have been coached. We didn't just show up and say, here I am, I'm Dave Lawson. I'm going to sell $20 million houses. I don't see Dave roaming around Park City, just knocking on doors saying, sell your house with me because I'm Dave and I'm the luxury guy and I just skied down the mountain. Everybody learns systems and everybody learns from other people who have done it prior to us. And then we make it our own by practicing and doing it through repetition. This is a business that's very repetitious, that you learn through repetition. And that's why it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. When you want to sell your house, like Matt says, it is a sprint. It's not a marathon because it can cost you money. But when you're learning in this game, you're on a path that never ends, in my opinion. You're constantly learning. I'm constantly getting sound bites. I'm learning from Lurchy and Brian Yarber and Dave and Gary. And I mean, I had a meeting with Gary the other day and he was sharing some of his systems with me. And it really took me back because I was like, I'm missing that system or I don't have this set up. And it made me kind of reassess for not only for me, but for my team. What are our gaps? What do we need to close? What do we need to put into action? So we started making that list to put it in action. I'm sure I'll lean on Gary again. That's the beauty of these groups, you guys. You don't have to do it alone. People will share. It's like my son used to always say to me, sharing is caring, right? So we all care and we care about your success. So we do share and we don't hold back. But at the end of the day, no matter how much we share or how much we care, it's still up to you to put it into action and to make it happen, right? Dave always says the same thing I say. Real estate is about plans. Prospecting equals lead generation. Lead generation equals appointments. Appointments equal negotiations. And negotiations equal systems, social media, and show the hell up.
And sales now.
And sales.
That's the S.
Yeah, that's the S. So that's kind of the full circle. You don't need to complicate it. It's not about making a postcard for 3 days to send out or writing a letter. We have all that. You can ask us for it. We'll give it to you, right? I'm always handing out my direct mail plan or marketing plans that I have. You can have all of it. I'm not attached to it. And I did not create fire and I did not create the wheel or some of these other great inventions in the world that move us. But, that's the big thing, guys. If you don't ask, you shall not receive. And you have to be open to receiving and you can't take it personally. And you have to work on your craft each and every day. How much script training are you doing? How much accountability do you have? Do you have your sectors down during the day? Your 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 3, 3 to 6. What are you doing in each sector to drive business? What is your mindset like? Whether you're in luxury or not, there is a luxury mindset, in my opinion. And you have to be in that zone. There's days you're going to feel unstoppable and there's days you're going to feel stopped. but you just have to break through that. And whatever positive thoughts you put out there is what you're going to manifest and attract. And it's a discipline that you have to work that muscle over time. There's nobody on the screen that hasn't had a bad day. I can guarantee that. There's nobody on the screen that hasn't had a big escrow fall apart at the last minute. There's nobody on the screen who hasn't been yelled at. There's nobody on the screen that hasn't been fired. There's nobody on the screen that hasn't been let down. But you know something? They keep moving forward because they know they can't do anything about it. Yesterday is gone. None of us are Michael J. Fox. We don't have a DeLorean. We can't go back to the future. And we take today and try to win today and try to make this day and elevate it to the best possible day that you can do. And that's all you can ask of yourself every day. And if you do that enough and you show up enough and you show up with the right inviting mindset and positive mindset, you will win because it's a numbers game. You know, just like the calls, just like the systems, right, Gary? You could have all the systems in the world. You could have the greatest systems in the history of life, but if you're not executing, you're not putting it into action, it's irrelevant, you guys. I've met people who've had zero systems. You know what their system was? Kind of like me, old school, their iPhone. But they make 100 calls a day, or they make 50 contacts a day. And it adds up because out of sight, out of mind. Insight, top of mind. And that's what this business is about. You have to be one of the 2 names that everybody remembers so you get your foot through the door. With that said, let's go out to Montana. He's got his shirt on. He just came back from Yellowstone Ranch. It's not John Dutton. It's Brian Yarber. Brian, I know you've learned from some of the best in the business. You have paid for coaching. You've paid for training. What have you learned from some of your coaches, some of your mentors over the years? Give us some of your best tips.
All right. Well, Pete, you said something that was very important, and I want to go back to it. The mother of all skills is repetition, right? My office, where I'm sitting right now, if I want to stay physically fit, then you've got to be able to do the things that keep you physically fit. And in business, it's no different. You want to win the week, like you mentioned, then you've got to do certain things to win that week. And Dave was talking, he was giving out some gold right there. So if I need to work out, I live in a gym. I have no excuse not to be fit right now. Does that make sense? I have equipment all around me. I can work out. That's just a choice that I have. So I'm going to turn my camera back off because my gym is currently my man cave here. Whoops, wrong camera. Okay, so going back to what Pete was saying, yes, I've paid for great coaching. And like Dave, I started out, Mike Ferry and Tony Robbins were the only coaches I really had in the 80s. I started pretty young. I was 23. So, I was paying money. I had mentors. I was one guy in a country club real estate office with 36 women, and they were all like my mothers. So they were just mentoring me. They were the ones that had the high-end luxury real estate listings. So I would go hold open houses. And through this mother of all skills, repetition, I learned what to do and what not to do, what to do more of and what to do less of. And then fast forward, after 20 years in the business, I did hire a coach again. Mike Ferry's son, Tom Ferry, and I became good friends. I grew up selling real estate with Brian Buffini. So I had Brian in my ear all the time. I had Tom Ferry in my ear all the time. I went to some of the mastery courses from Tony Robbins. And then when I was with Randy, when I met Randy, I was in with one of the best education mentors there is in real estate training. And he would pay, believe it or not, he was worth a lot of money, and he would hire coaches, and his coaches would coach our office. And we had people from John Maxwell's trainers in there. We were doing things called the Rockefeller habits. We had Jesse Itzler training us. I mean, we had every person that you could imagine coming in and out of our offices. And what I learned was I took a piece of every one of them away, because through this mother of all skills of repetition, I learned what to do and what not to do, but I would learn what would impact my business and what would make a big impact with my business. And I would implement it. And then I would see, like Dave was saying, check back in a year with me. And each time I implemented something new, I would measure it, and then I would give it away to our agents as a trainer, because there's coaching and then there's skills training. And if you think about an NFL team, you have a head coach. Their job is to make all the other coaches perform at the highest of levels, because your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator, those are big coaches, and you need those in your corner. But then you have the positions coaches, the offensive line coach, the defensive line coach. But then you get all the way down to the player themselves, and each player, believe it or not, has what they call a skills coach. And a skills coach would be, Tom Brady has a quarterback coach that's only for him. Tiger Woods has a putting coach only for putting. And what I've done is I've kind of perfected what I call the skills training side of real estate, because everything starts with your internal repetition of skills. If you say a script and that script is very personal to you, you're going to say the same thing that I'm going to say differently. It's going to come out. So what we learn is that some of us do things very naturally, right? Very naturally. And it sounds natural when Pete is scripting, or Craig, or any of you. A certain part of your dialogue is very natural. But what are the things that you don't do natural that get in the way of business? And that's what I like to focus in on. So the buckets that I like to talk about that you need to perfect are, and Dave Lawson was talking about this, was 7 hours versus 30 minutes. So if you look at your opportunities, your leads, your appointments, and your transactions, each one of those, you break them down and you begin to look at the numbers. So if you have an abundance of opportunities, you have pretty good leads, but you suck at setting appointments. But every time you're on an appointment, you're really good at a transaction. Well, then you got to focus in on what you suck at. And a lot of times it's not always the same for everybody. Some people are really good with appointments. They can set appointments, but when they're out on an appointment, they can't close the deal. Well, what's that all about? What's going on there? And so I've learned that the big rocks in my life are my travel. Okay. I want to be with my family. I want to set great appointments. If I have a family appointment, if I'm watching my kids soccer when they were young at 3:00 on a Tuesday, I was on an appointment. Mm-hmm. Nobody argued with the fact that I was on an appointment. I never told people what I was doing. I could be coloring with my grandkids. I'm on an appointment. If you get comfortable putting your priorities in place in the middle of the day, you're on an appointment. Nobody's ever questioned, what are you doing? Nobody's ever asked me that. I'm on an appointment. It's none of your business. Doesn't matter. I wouldn't share. Nobody would even have would even ask that question. Oh, okay. Well, then what's better for you? Monday afternoon at 3:30, or is Tuesday at 4 better? And then you let them choose. And what happened was people started choosing appointments. Oh, hey, that's convenient. I just gave you my 2 best open hours in Monday and Thursday, and people set their own appointments. So I learned how to set appointments, really good appointment skills.
Work with be like a doctor, right, Brian?
That's it.
Yeah. You don't call your doctor and say, I'll meet you Tuesday at 3:00.
Oh, what's better for you, doc? That's malpractice, right? So many realtors do malpractice on themselves because they don't have the strength. I need this deal so bad that I'm going to set my family aside to run this person around who doesn't even have like you said earlier, somebody said they don't even have the ability to buy. But I just think if I show them the right house, they're going to do all the work to get to that house, and it's going to be a yes. And then I'd suffer because really I'm not even there. And what I've learned is there's a lot of realtors who've never had a great experience. So if they have never had a great experience, how could their clients have one? Mm-hmm. You can't deliver a great experience if you're frustrated all the time. So if you're an agent watching this and you're frustrated half the time because things are falling. I had 3 transactions fall out in one day when I was 27 years old, and I lost $280,000. Now, I never lost it because it was never mine to spend. But when I lost those 3 escrows, it was so inconvenient, it almost got me out of the business. I had a 10% double-ended land deal for almost $2 million back in the 80s, which was a massive development deal back then. And I had that 10% locked up just for myself. I had another big deal locked up. I went to Las Vegas with my girlfriend at the time, and I came back, and all of them canceled. I had 3 big deals. And I looked at that day and I'm like, man, it was never mine to spend. Why am I upset? Right? I didn't close the deal. The deals didn't close, whatever. But it made me think about this business differently. You cannot spend a commission you cannot earn. So you have to learn to earn them. And if you want them to go smoothly, then you find out what makes a deal go smoothly. And if you can get into transactions where you know that the avatar, your client, is an avatar, that they've done everything correctly, all the steps up to the point of getting into a transaction, and your client and you have done everything you possibly can, then if the deal does unravel, well, you're not going to lose your client. It's just inconvenient, lost in escrow. And I started learning that early on when the markets went south and great buyers decided to sit on the fence. I never lost the buyer. I just lost the transaction. But the buyer came back, the deal came back, my clients came back, and markets go up and down. So the great coaching, the skill of all of this, the repetition of this is that if you do everything correctly that you possibly can, and you listen to everybody here, you want to be able to look back on every transaction and say, man, that was a great deal. The buyer had a great deal, or the seller, everybody was happy, and if you can figure out how to master the success of service, then you don't have to worry about closings. And that's where I'm at today. I'm just teaching these types of skills because our scripts are so important today with AI technology. When people run something through AI technology, they're getting multiple choice speeches, right? And so if I were just to say, Gary, if I hadn't seen you in 10 years and you just said, hey, Brian, how you been? You're in real estate, how's the market? I could answer that in the way I think the market is, and I could say something that might conflict with Gary's perception of the market, because I didn't know at the time, maybe Gary was losing his house and he was holding on and he was going to fight a short sale. And I come in and I'm like, man, the market's great. This is going on. Do you really think he's going to share his rough time with me because I'm so excited about how many houses I'm selling and all these things are going great? No, he's going to say, wow, man, that's awesome. Good for you. Versus if I were to just say, hey, Gary, that really depends. What are you thinking about doing? You thinking about buying or selling in this marketplace? What you got to know the market you're getting into. Let's talk about what's going on in the marketplace. Now he could say, well, here's what's going on, right? Because I didn't shoot myself in the foot like a little puppy dog at the front door peeing on myself because my owner just came home and, I'm all excited to do this. Man, you got to be careful of what you say and how you say it. And so people don't understand how much you care until you show them how much you care. And if we get in the way of telling them what we think they want to hear, then what we're going to do is we're going to talk ourselves out of a lot of business. So I'm going to stop there because I practice this stuff all the time. I love this. The mother of all skills is definitely scripting. However, I never want to sound scripted.
Yeah.
Love that. I mean, I think it's really important, you guys, to listen to what Brian's saying, and a lot of us are making similar points. You have to be consistent. You have to be committed. You have to be relentless. Coaches, a lot of times, all they do is ask you questions. That's what I love about coaches. They ask you a lot of questions, and then they give you sound advice based on your answers. So if that's working for all these high profile coaches, like deep into certain exercises or techniques or things along those lines, but you can also use that type of approach with your clients, because it's really about the clients. It's not about you. And the only way that you discover about somebody is real simple. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your goals. Tell me about what you're trying to achieve. Would it be helpful if I did this? Would it be helpful if I could provide that? Would it be helpful? Because I think the new age of real estate is upon us, right? With AI and everything's moving fast and nobody knows who to turn to. So you have to really separate yourself and share what type of experience somebody is going to have by working with you. Active buyer or seller to come to their own conclusion, help them come to the conclusion that they should be working with you and hiring you to represent them and service them because it's a service business. So what does your service look like? And like I said, it all starts with mindset. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to improve systems and approaches, and everything's moving fast. I mean, God, I know some people, all they do is social media all day long, but it works for them. That's their focus. So you just have to really look at it and say, what is my focus to get out there to the people in the area that I want to handle that sends the right messaging so that they know what to expect when I walk through the door? Are you sharing that experience prior to pick to interview to help them solve their problems? Because you have to be solution oriented. Let's go to Randy. I know Randy for a fact didn't show up from Poland and they gave him a bunch of investment properties and said, start working for this guy and you can help this guy flip houses and understand cap rates and ROI and ARV and all these types of terms in his arena. So Randy was definitely coached by a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of it, like everybody else on the screen, had trial and error. You guys, we had a lot of trial and error. And you know what that means? You lose a lot of money till you turn on your brain and open your brain and say, this isn't working, I need help. Or I want to accelerate this, so I'll pay for coaching, because the most expensive advice you'll ever get is free advice. You have to pay for coaching. You have to, no matter how little or how much, there's got to be buy-in. You got to put skin in the game. Randy, what's some of the best tips you've received along the way in your journey? I know your niche is investors and guiding investors, and it's a fascinating niche because a lot of these people are doing multiple homes a year, you guys, and they're counting on Randy to guide them and advise them. So it's not a one-off, hey, see you in 7 to 10 years. It's a 4 to 50 type unit on average every year. And how can you guide them? What are some of the tips that you've learned?
Yeah, so Brian mentioned a few of the coaches that we've had where we were fortunate to be in front of, but I want to give you a different way of looking at it too. Is if you don't have the money, right, for coaching, which some of you might not, as brand new agents, you're trying to maybe keep the job you have to pay your bills, but you don't necessarily have the money potentially, right? Consider becoming more of an intern for somebody, right? When I got into real estate, I had a cleaning service business, which was doing okay. It wasn't bad, but I hit a ceiling, and I reached out to one of my good friends who happened to be doing real estate investing. And I was just like, hey man, I want to learn from you guys. Is there anything I can do to help you? Meanwhile, they're in Connecticut, I'm in New Jersey. And he's like, yeah, you can come and help us, but we just can't pay you. And I was like, sign me up. And I started driving there, guys. Half a week I would spend in Connecticut, sleeping on my friend's couch, drive home to New Jersey, run my cleaning service business with my family the rest of the week, the other half. And I did that every single week for 6 months. Okay. Why would I do that? Well, because I wanted to be coached, right? And this is another way of getting coaching without necessarily having to spend the money. I was a free intern. I was willing to give up my time to help someone else that I wanted to get their information, their skills, their knowledge imparted on me, right? So I was just like, what do you guys want me to do? Just tell me what to do. And that's it, right? And they did. And I learned how to do short sales. I learned how to talk to sellers in distress. I learned how to save them from foreclosure. I learned how to flip homes, all of that as an intern, right? That allowed me to launch my own investing business because I had coaching. It was as an intern. And guess what? Fast forward to when I moved to San Diego, and those guys ended up moving to San Diego a year prior. I went to visit them. I decided that I want to move to San Diego, and they didn't think I would do it. And I showed up 30 days later in their office, and I was like, how can I help you? And many of you know those guys. Gary, I know we've done deals together with CT Homes. Pete Middleton knows us, right? I was like, how can I help you? And I didn't ask for money. I was just like, how can I help you guys? And they, of course, already knew me, right? I was a product of theirs from Jersey. And I just started helping. I was like, what tasks can I take off your hands, JD, who is the one running the flipping business? And I started taking things off his plate because I knew if I could help him get, progress forward, and it will create more opportunities. And then they're going to reciprocate and give me some more opportunities to be involved in. And the next thing you know, I became a partner in a flipping business, right? That was doing 100 deals a year. And we built the whole team. And I share all that because, you can hire coaches, and I've hired coaches, or you can also roll up your sleeves and join someone's team and be humble and just know you don't know what you don't know, and you're here to help, right? And don't think about the money, and watch what happens. Deals will come, opportunities will come, because that team leader is going to see how hungry you are. They're going to see the fire in you, right? And I do this to this day, guys. Like I was an intern for many years. When I was running a physical office in San Diego, I literally had interns all the time because I believed in it, and I wanted to help the young generation make up their own decisions if real estate is their go-to in the future. And I'm proud to say many of my interns went on and built a successful real estate career with me or without, right? What was that? That was coaching for them, right? So I opened up that opportunity for them early on. And what I learned is, well, first of all, I had Blair Singer. I invested money in later into personal development, was my coach. One of the things that I learned, and I'll give you some quick tips. If you're using the word but, you got to stop using but, right? It's like things like this. They're so simple. You might pick up from your coaches. Most of us, will use the word but all the time, right? If someone tells you something and you're like, yeah, but, and then you go on with your statement, you basically just erased everything they said. And you're just basically saying, like, what you said is not right. Listen to me, right? Mm-hmm. Replace but with and, right? That's an example of coaching, right? That someone can give you. And it could be that simple, and it can change everything in your listing appointment or in your buyer's appointment. Or another word that I've learned that it's like ingrained in my head. Like I can't stop thinking and using it, right? Is have you considered? Instead of, I used to say, hey, we should do it this way, or you should do it that way. Go do it that way. People don't want to be told what to do, right? So instead, you're like, hey, have you considered doing it this way? It is now their choice. It's not you telling them, right? Again, that's what we get from coaching, guys. It's these little, and most of the time, it's these little things that will make the biggest impact. It's not some rocket science idea that's going to take you months to, implement. Sometimes it is, if it's like a software or things that you're trying to automate. But a lot of times in our business, we're in a people business. We're in a communication business. Like it's what we say, like Brian talks about, matters more than anything else, right? So those are the things, like little tips. The book I would tell you, that I read early on, that one of my first mentors told me to read, was E-Myth. Because the challenge is that most of you guys, including, me, all of us, operate as technicians, right? And that's okay. But the moment you start learning how quickly you can remove yourself from being a technician to a manager, that's when you start growing, right? So if you can read the book E-Myth, and I'll send you a link to that in the chat. E-Myth is one book that changed my perspective on how to grow a business or grow myself, right? Going from a technician to a manager. But really, in order to do anything, you need to work on your mindset. So another book that I read early on was Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Simple reads, both of them. It will just change the whole dynamic of how you look at business and life, right? Mindset is going to be talking about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. We operate in both. Our goal is to be in the growth mindset as much as possible, right? You can't avoid the fixed mindset. We all have it. It will always sneak up on us. It's, are we aware when we're in it, right? And we can switch to growth mindset. Read those two books, guys. Think about think outside the box. It's not always buying coaching. It's also being an intern, right? That's another way of doing it. Or volunteering is another way. If you were like, oh man, I wish I could invest in Tom Ferry's coaching. I just don't have the money. Reach out to the team and say, hey, Tom Ferry, I'm willing to volunteer at your events and do some work. Is there any volunteering help you need? At Fortune Builders Events, which is the education company that I was involved with, we had volunteers running our events, guys. Why do you think people would do it? Because they wanted to be around us. They wanted to be coached. They wanted to rub elbows with us. Think about it. Intern or volunteers, two other ways of getting coaching without paying for it. How are you paying it? With your time. And that's just as valuable. So, and last, I'll leave you with, find an accountability partner. Find someone that has the same mindset, wants to grow, wants to set up goals, and you guys can lock arms together and hold each other accountable. That has helped me tremendously. I've had an accountability group for 10 years, guys. Brian knows. It changed my whole life. And it was advised by Tony Robbins' coach that I should do that. So I'll stop there because this is a very passionate topic of mine.
I think everybody on here is passionate about it because there's a lot of people in this past year has been a challenging year. A lot of people are struggling. And but you have to also look at, what is your self-talk? What do you say to yourself every day when you wake up? You know, do you have 3 goals that you're trying to accomplish? Do you complicate things? What is your mindset and what do you say to yourself all day long? And if you're not consistently cheering yourself on, because nobody else is going to cheer for you. And if you're not kind to yourself and love yourself, then nobody else is going to love you. So you have to be really aware of that, and you got to be committed. I just see a lot of people trying to do part-time real estate with a full-time expectation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't align, you guys. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say, am I really doing it to maximum capacity? Am I exhausting it? If my back was against the wall and my family was on the line, what would I do to succeed? Majority of us, I don't want to speak for everyone, I can only speak for myself. I would do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
You told me to be in the office at 4 o'clock in the morning and leave at midnight, that's what I would do. And I would work off 4 hours of sleep. And guess what? The next day I would get up and I would get my ass out of bed and I would do the same thing. So if you're not showing up and putting yourself in winning opportunities, that's nobody's fault but yourself. So I don't try to be mean. People have said it to me in the past and they kind of shocked me. I don't think they delivered the message the right way. But I have shared with them certain things, certain shortcomings or things that weren't going the way I thought they should be going. And they said, Pete, wake up, it's your fault. Because if you're not taking action and doing something about it, then it's your fault. And you know something, they're right. It doesn't have to be perfect, you guys. Steve Jobs said it. You just have to ship it. All right. And if it's not the best it can be, then work on it and ship it again. And if it's still not the best it can be, work on it and ship it again. But you got to ship it. You know, too many people get paralyzed and they love telling everybody how hard it is or how busy they are or how much lack of time or balance they have. Well, do something about it. Be a better scheduler. You know, schedule your segments of the day, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 3, 3 to 6. I'm not going to say every quadrant is going to be filled to the brim every single day. That's not realistic. But if you can make one slight alteration to how you do things, it'll pay off huge. I'm telling you, I have to admit this. I'm not perfect. I'm lacking a lot of things, you guys. But you know what I know to do? I know how to get my ass up out of bed and go to work in a positive mindset and win the day. And I hear so many excuses. I hear so many people that say, you're not doing this for me. You're not doing that for me. Then do something about it. And if it's not working for you, then shift where you are. Take drastic action.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that environment. Do something else if you feel like you're not being heard. But it all starts and ends with you. That's the key. Go ahead, Lurchi.
Hey, you know what? there was one word that kept coming up real quick, and I know we're coming to an end. It was journey. And everything that we're doing is a journey because there's only one destination. It's when we die. We're living our dash. What is your dash? What are you doing in the dash on the day you were born to the day you die? And this is our journey. So understand it, nothing's coming to an end. You won't even know when the end comes. Okay. The bottom line comes down to this is your dash and how are you going to do it?
Mhm.
I can tell you that if you don't have money, you're making excuses. In the past week, I've been on 2 webinars with Dave Lawson's coach, Deb DeGroat. All you got to do is listen to these things. I ended up putting a new brevity in place. I ended up doing something else in place. I learned more in those 2-hour calls that were for free that I had my VAs watch also. And then also that Jesse Itzler, you can watch him on the internet. We saw him
On
at
YouTube.
EXP. Buy that calendar. Those were 2 things that were free this week. It's just a matter of excuses that you can't do it. And that's what I want to say. It's not about money. We've all spent 0 money and we've spent $30,000 a year for a coach. The point is, your coach, you're only going to be as good as the work you're going to do. Start small. Start learning off the internet. Implement the things we've talked about and stop making excuses and hold yourself at a higher level. The second you hold yourself at a higher level, you have to act different. You have to look different. You have to hang with people that are different.
Yeah.
The choice
Act
is yours.
like you're there before you're there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's all mindset, you guys. It's all, I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but at least convince yourself you made it. You have to act as if. And that's the big thing. That's the big misconception in business. There's a lot of people, their greatest enemy is within.
Hey,
The
Pete.
self-talk telling themselves that they can't do it when you can, because everybody started somewhere and they started the journey one step at a time. And it may not have been easy. Things don't just come easy. You have to put yourself in winning positions. And as I always say, nobody's ever walked through my living room when I was sitting there in shorts and bought a house off. But a lot of people have walked through my office on Prospect Street in La Jolla, California, where the average price house is 4.9 million. And guess what? They bought stuff off me because I would say, would it be helpful if I could provide you with the best opportunity list for opportunities in La Jolla? Would it be helpful if I provided you with this? Would it be helpful if I provided you with that? But if I got news for you, they can't have a conversation. You can't attract that person if you don't show up and you're not structured and you're not scheduled. And if you keep telling people, I'm so busy, I can't even breathe, guess what? You're not going to be busy for long because the universe is going to correct that. Say I'm professionally scheduled. And it's important for you to know that I'm never too busy to help any of your friends, family, and colleagues buy, sell, list, invest in real estate in any sector. I am here. I will take great care of them, and I will guide them as if I was diversifying my real estate portfolio. If you don't have that down, you better say that to yourself 10 times a day until it becomes second nature.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they're all going to ask you, how's real estate going, Brian? Everybody says the same shit. Oh, it's going great. Well, why don't you say, something? That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. What particular sector of real estate are you interested in? If I was able to provide you a list of the top 10 Airbnb opportunities around so that you could diversify. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have a great super host who does Airbnb for a lot of my clients. Would that be beneficial? That's it, guys. It's straightforward. But if you assume what they want, you'll never find out what they want.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody want to end on anything? Gary looks like he's deep in thought.
I just wanted to say one thing. I just wanted to say that book, Randy talked about the E myth. He didn't get to the E part of that. The E is to be a true entrepreneur. So that's what that is. The E myth is go from a technician to a manager, from a manager to an entrepreneur. And that's how you get there is through the E myth program. So great book. David Gerber.
One of my favorite books too. It's actually the E Myth Revisited from Michael Gerber. I think in the link that was Randy just called it the E-Myth, but absolutely one of my top 3 books I've ever read.
Yeah, I love that. And remember, guys, we have 41 days left. If you want to have a great first quarter next year, it starts now. It doesn't start next year. It starts right now. Double down on everything that you're doing. Double down your calls. Double down your belly-to-belly visits. Double down your open houses. Double down your prospecting. Double down everything you possibly can to get business going. And put it out there that you already have that business going. Visualize it. Put houses up on your wall. Look at them every day. You know, and it'll all come to you because you'll manifest it. So have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving. We're not on next Thursday because of Thanksgiving, and we'll be on the Thursday after that. See everybody then.
Bye.
Ciao.